to another edition of All In Sports. It's your man, Lee Ice, and I am down at the time of 18 in Washington, D.C. Shout out to my man, David Roundtree, for having us here for this good show. As you can see, I'm joined by a man I have known for about, 30 years? 30 years. Remember when I was kind of it's my man, this is Derrick. What's up, bro? Thank you for joining us, man. This man is a golfer, poker brother, but today we want to talk about his basketball journey. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody for turning to last week's show. Thank everybody for turning to this week's show. Like I always say, we can entertain y'all going through, the ice don't say that word, but I'm always tell you, protect yourself and your families, because that's the way you know how. Mr. Henry, before we get started, we always bring the show in with a toast. All right. You know what's first on the agenda? Go to All In State of the Union, brought to you by the best it is. The best of what it's been, the best that ever done it. Main dog, big dog Hill. What's going on in the world of sports, bro?
What's up, Kirk Ramsey, Brian Gumbel? Here we go, y'all. Hey, the NFL schedule came out the last time we were together, the ice. Philadelphia opens up with the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night. How you feel?
Oh man, what Dallas really, bro? But I'm kind of glad because I didn't want them to open up against us.
Well, your team opened up with the New York Giants. How you feel?
1-0.
1-0, you sure? All right. Hey, Robert Ursay passed away this week. How you feel?
That's kind of sad. I mean, not kind of sad. It goes to this man. He was a different kind of owner, especially when he kind of with my man. He died back 2 years ago.
Jeff Saturday.
Jeff Saturday. But still, I hear nothing but good things about him. So, again,
0-2, Timberwolves, Knicks. How you feel?
It's a wrap. Wrap it up like a Christmas gift. The Knicks are done. Sorry, Mr. Roundtree. They're done. They blew that damn lead first game. They can't recover the tips right away to the right.
Minnesota as well. Since you mentioned Minnesota, the same thing. The defense was ridiculous. And then that other guy, that mini Iceman, Gilchrist Alexander, before he could flat out fill it up, just like they always do.
Also 0-2, the NHL playoffs, the Hurricanes take a 2-0 lead over the Carolina Panthers to beat the Washington Capitals and advance in the next round. How you feel?
Well, the Caps are out, so I just follow on the business.
Lee Ice, guess what starts next Saturday? Or next Thursday night? The Canadian Football League.
Canada.
That's right, we'll be in Canada for the Toronto Argonauts and the Ottawa Red Blacks on August the 9th. Thank you, Toronto Argonauts, for inviting us back up for the 4th year in a row. Lee Ice, take us to commercial break.
We're going to a break. When we come back, we want to chop it up with Mr. Derrick Henry. We're going to talk about his journey, his NBA experience, his college basketball experience. But first and again, we are here at the time of 18. Convert the followers into valuable customers with a max loading page. Check out the website at max.site. All right, Mr. Henry, we're going to get right into it. Like I said, I've known this brother for over 30 years. This man has so much experience in everything. We're gonna talk about his basketball experience. So, hey, tell me, you played what was your high school?
I played at New Britain High in Connecticut. I had a 1.5 year experience there. I had a short journey only because grades were required. Dad didn't even want me to play basketball. He wanted me to just stay in my grades. Basketball was not on the gym. So but I found I got to be pretty good. And I guess I could state it, a lot of people connected it out. When I was supposed to be working, I was playing basketball.
You say 1.5, so I take that as what, junior, senior year?
Yep.
You didn't start playing till your junior year?
I did not start playing basketball, high school basketball, really strong basketball until my junior year of high school.
How tall were you?
6'2",
6'2", okay. What position?
guard. Guard. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to build to at least put it in the bucket. That was the main thing, of course, when you're coming up, learn how to score. And that's what I did.
What's the name of your high school?
New Britain High.
New Britain. So, your career at New Britain led you to where?
After that, I ended up getting not a scholarship. I got a grant in aid to go into the University of Connecticut. And that was we didn't have. I was not a scholarship player, of course, but a couple of the coaches saw me from Hartford Community College. I was not going to community college, so they had grant in aid money that they would get you to go to college at the University of Connecticut because I didn't have the money. But when they granted me in, I got a chance to go try out. And Coach D. Rowe back then saw me play, and he said he knew who I was, but he didn't know that I would be coming here to at least try out for the team. But when I tried out for the team, everything worked out well.
So this is your freshman year?
That was my sophomore year. Yes.
After you came from the community college.
I came from Harvard Community College, left out of there, ended up going to UConn. Once I ended up going to UConn, we played, and our basketball team was actually really good. We ended up having a lot of Connecticut players that came from local, and they could actually play. But at the time when I was in school, they didn't particularly draft and pick up a lot of African American players. A lot of the guys that come from upper echelon areas in Connecticut, but they did not recruit or go after players.
So you was in Connecticut. Was there a lot of African American players up there?
There were. Hartford, New Haven, Wilbercross, all those schools had a lot of black players that were really good. But they just weren't recruited at University of Connecticut. But then finally the coach wanted to win, and he saw that the other kids were winning state championships, and they started recruiting they started going after players that could actually help them win in college. So they went all over the city, all over the state, and started bringing in players.
So, well, okay, no, this is pre-Big East, though, right?
We was
This
at
wasn't
ECAC, this is no Big East.
So what other colleges you say in that?
Well, we had Boston, BU, New Hampshire, Maine, Rutgers. We played against in Hofstra, New York teams, and then of course the UMass and those teams. Those were our conferences.
UMass was Doc playing for UMass back then?
Well, Doc was before me,
Okay.
but Doc did play at University of Massachusetts. And I had the privilege of seeing him play. When I played a high school American game, I saw my first privilege of seeing him at the Springfield Hall of Fame game. We played the high school game, and then Julius and them came in after and played the pro game after that.
Any great experience playing against any great players in college? I mean,
No, I didn't have the guys that we played against, the biggest team we played against was Rutgers. They had Eddie Jordan, Phil Sellers. That year, we played them, they beat us 4 times. They were 30-0 that year. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, they were 30-0. They got us 4 times. But we took our team, we were the first team to actually go to the Sweet 16. And then we
that team didn't make it to the Sweet?
Our team made it, but they made it to the Final Four. Rutgers
Oh,
did.
okay. So
We
both
made
of
it to
y'all-
the yes. We made it to. We were the first team from our school to go to the Sweet 16, and then we of course ran into Rutgers. They ended up knocking us out.
they wasn't in there.
They were,
So y'all won y'all. So I'm pretty sure they was, I mean, how many, back then they only took what, like 16?
they were only 8 teams.
8?
Yes.
No, for the tournament, the whole tournament.
Oh, the tournament? Oh no, there was an entire 64. There was the NCAA tournament it was the NCAA tournament. They had the entire full roster. You know, all the teams got in that you see today. Well, now they expanded, but back then it was more than 32. It was like 64. There was a lot of teams. Remember, it was Indiana. I think won that championship. Michigan, Indiana, Michigan, Rutgers, and I forget the other team. That was the Final Four that went that year. But they had it was very strong. NCAA.
So what position did you play in, Bob?
Guard.
Guard, shooting guard.
Shooting guard.
guard.
I was not good enough. I didn't have good enough handles to be a point. They wanted me to be a point, but we had guys that were true ball handlers. But I was able to shoot.
The best college player you played against, and the best college player you played with.
The best college player I played against was Phil Sellers at Rutgers. He was Player of the Year in the NCAA. I guarded him. I could defend pretty well until I got against him. He served me for 28 every night.
All right, bro, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your NBA prime. All right, y'all, all of that, a little bit more, all in.
Boys want to call one?
Sure.
You know she meant the cake, right?
Okay, some things are meant to be silly, but choosing web interactive technologies to host your business online is like the opposite of silly.
They'll work with you and build your custom website.
And the search engine optimization? Finding your company will be... You get it.
As a business, you have to stand out. We're just pointing you in the right direction. Choose web interactive technologies. Don't be silly.
Welcome back to Derrick 1. Man, the ice here at the Tavern 18 down as EC. I'm enjoying these delicious lamb chops. Oh, God.
Selfish.
Hmm?
Selfish.
Say it again?
You selfish.
Oh, well. You want me to throw you one?
No, you drunk my water, ate my lamb chop. Selfish.
Man, I thank y'all. This food is delicious. But we gotta get back to my man, D. So we was talking about his, excuse me now. Talking about his career, his college career in Connecticut. So when you was playing there in your senior year, did you have thoughts of a pro career?
I had no ambition, didn't have any thoughts with regards to moving and trying to even become an NBA player. Because even in college, I was, I just saw that there were players that were just so good, and just watching them, and I just never even thought about a career as far as going to basketball.
Now back then, did they have like the overseas, like to play overseas?
Yeah, there was overseas opportunities. I didn't even realize that those things
Really?
existed. But the opportunity only came across for me because I was not drafted. It was a recommendation because I was playing summer leagues. I would play summer leagues. I was going down to Rutgers. I was playing all the
Playing at
the Rutgers in New York City. I was
Oh,
playing
wow.
at the Rutgers. And so when I started to get more experience as far as playing with ball players that were really good, and then I saw some of the players that were even in college, and I saw them playing there, but I could compete, and I saw that I could compete. And then once I got the opportunity to just at least get my skills honed in, I ended up getting an invitation to come to Ohio. And Coach Rogers, they were looking for guards. It was just a tryout, yes, it was just a tryout. And so he recommended that I go. I was looking for things to do with my life at the time, wasn't really sure what I was gonna do. So I called George Kennedy. George Kennedy was my uncle, and he lived in Canton, Ohio. I told him that I had an invite to come, and he said, nephew, come on down here. I can put you up, and I think you have a chance to win. So the coach was Jimmy Rogers. He was the assistant coach for Bill Fitch. So I went on an invite to camp. When I got there, I had an opportunity to see all these players that were just phenomenal. Austin Carr was there. Campy Russell was there. Jimmy Jones was there, and I'll get to him for a very short second. Ham Russell, Footsie Walker, Eddie Jordan, Freeman Williams, Armand Gillian, all these guys were in camp. And I saw those guys, and I was like, wow, this was overwhelming borderline. You can think, how you gonna get past these guys? But at least it's only a tryout, just to see how well you can compete against the guys. So a short story, the players were there, and then they were gone. The reason why they were gone was because the owner, Mr. Capsey, he traded players away to get draft picks. So they had, Dick Snyder was the all-world for the Cavaliers, traded, sent him to Seattle. Armand Gillian was there, was from Princeton, was a really good player, sent him to Atlanta. Eddie Jordan for Rutgers, and I knew I had a problem with him when he was there, they sent him to New Jersey. Freeman Williams got cut from the team. Now there's only 3 guards in camp, and I happen to be one. So when we finally worked the roster down, Austin Carr got hurt, so by numbers, it gave me opportunity to compete. So when I got a chance to compete, we went to an exhibition game, and I did really well. I played well. We had a couple exhibition games, and one of them, which I always have an opportunity to gloat about this one. The newspaper read with Campy Russell, Jim Jones, Ham, Russell, Lambert. They scored all their points, but Derrick Henry led all scorers with 29 points.
29.
I had 20. So that was my claim to fame for playing. And I had good opportunity. But then so I played that game, and then 2 weeks later, they made a trade with Philadelphia 76ers. They traded draft picks, and from Philadelphia came 2 ball players, one being Eddie Jordan, and the other one being Gary Brokoff and Terry Furlow. Those are the 2 players that they came in from Philly. So now I'm playing against those guys.
Both of those were guards.
Guards. One came from Notre Dame, one was the all-time leading scorer for Michigan State. The handwriting was on the wall. They called me in, they said, Mr. Henry did a great job, great ability, great shape. However, we have ball players that we're gonna use your spot. And in turn, it was say goodbye, have a good day. But the recommendation was for me to go to Washington, because the Bullets were losing out on their players because they had just, a lot of players getting older. They said, why don't you go try out in Washington, D.C. So I ended up leaving Cleveland, came to Washington, tried it with the Bullets, and that was not good. That was not good. That camp
Now,
was
who was
really
on
good.
that squad back then?
Well, you remember, we were
Chenier.
Phil Chenier and Porter, Wright, they were the guards, but I didn't have a chance to play against them. There were other players that were Washington, D.C. players that were here. Like, for example, I mentioned to my group earlier, there was a gentleman by the name of David Revis. was here. He was, if anyone in Washington, D.C., and whenever you hear that name, he was the original Shake and Bake. And David was 6'5", he was drafted, I forget what college he came from. And David was absolutely one of the best ball players on the Washington Bullets camp tryout. The coach was Gene Chu, and who ran the camp was Bernie Bickerstaff. When that camp was over, they shook my hands and thank you very much. And even the gentleman by the name Shake and Bake, he was released because they had all guards had no cut contracts, so everyone had to get released from there.
Wow.
But it was
And that's how you ended
enjoyable.
up in D.C.
And that's how I ended up in Washington D.C. and never.
All right, y'all, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to wrap this up with Mr. Henry. He got some more stories to tell. Again, we here at the Tavern 18 in D.C. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. All in sports. Man, we're chopping it up with Derrick Henry. That last segment is brought to you by Web Interactive Technologies. If you like our website, go check them out and see what they can do for you. All right, Derrick. So we left off, we was in D.C. with the Bullets. Say that didn't go very well.
That camp was so good.
So, what is the next term?
So it was recommended at Potomac High School, at Bullis High School in Potomac, Maryland, they had a European trial. I was disheartened. My heart was broken. I had tried it with the Cavs, let me go. Tried it with the Bullets, let me go. But they said, go and try out for the European trial. But I had an ambition, and I wanted to say I was doing nothing else. So I went to the camp, and it was very good. And the reason why it was very good is because the players that I had experience playing against in the earlier stage between Washington and Cleveland, then I'm playing against guys that were like D1 players that did not have the same skill set.
So
Playing against them was a lot easier to play against those guys. I had pro experience.
So experience against the NBA trials is
Yes,
Put
a
you over
lot
the
more.
top.
It could be a lot. Made it easier for me to play against these players. They had some very good players there as well. Subsequently, from there, I ended up getting tryouts and I ended up going overseas and played basketball overseas in 5 different countries.
what country?
I went to Buenos Aires in Argentina, then I went to Barcelona, Spain, then I went to Mannheim, Germany, and then I played Oberhausen as well in Germany, then I went to England. I was there for a short time. Then I went to the Philippines, then I retired from playing basketball in Brisbane, Australia. Played for Brisbane.
What's the experience for American players when they go play in another country?
Good question. The experiences back then was different than it is now, because back then they were only allowed to have 2 African American players on a team. That was it. They did not galvanize the basketball team by having a lot of American players come in. You were only allowed to have 2
Well, how about
African
white
American
players?
players. The rest.
The rest of white players.
All of them were all of them were of their country. Remember, we were playing in a country.
Okay.
So when you come in from America, your agent got you a job through the ownership to play on a team that were only allowed to have 2 blacks in the team.
But you said the rest were white or from their
All for
country.
their country. Like for example, in Buenos Aires, David Rivas left here as well. I went with David, and we went to Buenos Aires. David did not leave that country for 13 years. They have a statue for him today. He is the all-world player from America that played in Buenos Aires. So when I went to Australia in closing, I went to Australia and played with the Brisbane team there. And again, we only had 2 players that were of African American descent. And we have major restrictions. We're only allowed to stay there for 6 months. Then you had to go reapply for your visa. And the visa stated prohibited to apply for employment. So your only job was to make the team or go back home. That's the way it was back then. But we made a lot of money. The teams paid us well, handsomely, and we had a very good time.
So if it's just you and another brother over there, I mean,
Yeah.
y'all getting along good. I
We
mean,
did, because under your contract that's written, you have a code of ethics, codes in your contract. You had to conduct yourself in those countries respectably, and you could not have any fights, disagreements, arguments. You had to carry yourself with dignity and respect. And seeing that they only took people that had dignity, places where they came from, their upbringing, it made it easy for, especially for me, just to go live in those countries.
Knowing you, I know you
Yeah,
did,
and get an education. Absolutely. So it was different. It was fun. But then the best part about it was when I came back and I realized all the experiences when I retired from playing. I look back even today and I share with all my friends, like I even share with you, the jersey, the coat that I got when I passed by the 76ers. You know, I have all these experiences and people that knew that I had a potential to play, an opportunity, but did not. And like some of my friends, like Julius Irving, I mean, he's a huge friend of mine. I can name multiple players, and Dominique Wilkins, and even Reggie Williams, and then the local area here have Reggie Williams and Gwen Cook from Washington, and DeMatha, and he played at Duke and all that. So there are a lot of players that this game of basketball has given me the opportunity to meet and greet with a lot of different players.
All right, before we get out of here, you said you played at the Great Rutgers. So tell us, before we get out, some experiences, the players you met, the players you played against.
Oh man, that was good. The players that people don't realize and knew how well they were. Tiny Archibald, one of the greatest guards ever. Artis Gilmore, Will Chamberlain coming there one day. We're sitting there, we're watching on the sideline, watching him. Well, actually, we were only on the sideline because we were playing, and then when those guys came, they benched us. So we had to sit there and watch. Helicopter Jones, they were doing exhibitions, taking quarters off the top of the back, literally watching this. But the biggest thrill that I had, of course, was watching Julius Irving. When the doc came in and people climbed trees just to watch him. They were up on trees, fences, buildings, watching these guys play basketball. And even today, Julius and I periodically get a chance to get together and or go play golf at golf events and places. And I asked him one day, I said to him, I said, Doc, who's the best guard that you've ever played? I just wanted to personally know from him, and he didn't hesitate. Tiny Archibald. If you ask him today, or anyone ask him, he'll tell you, Tiny Archibald was the best point.
He led the league in scoring and assists.
Yes. Now that he was with Boston at that time, he did that, and because he was the player.
But who did he start with?
I don't remember. I don't know if he was what team he originally started, but he ended up turning it on.
Yeah, he don't get the credit that he's.
No, he doesn't.
Everybody saying Isaiah was the greatest little guard. I don't know. I think Tiny.
We have to define it by virtue of the team he played for and the usage rate. The Boston Celtics needed him to do certain things. Isaiah they needed him to do certain things. So one day, I'd love to even maybe come back to the show and have an opportunity to talk about the games that I witnessed in travels. I traveled to see games all over, including Michael Jordan, Bullets, and I traveled to watch those guys play. And it was a pleasure to recognize and to see them play.
Well, man, it's a pleasure to have you, my brother, man. Before we get out of here, thank you again, Tavern 18. And we leave you like we always leave you, like my man Ric Flair said, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because it's the best team going. For Lee Ice, Derrick Henry, Big Dog, All In Sports, we out of here.